On May 6, 1937, the airship Hindenburg approached Lakehurst, New Jersey after crossing the Atlantic. It was not just a vehicle, it was a symbol of speed, luxury, engineering confidence, and national prestige. Newsreel cameras waited below. Ground crews prepared the landing lines. Passengers looked toward the end of a long voyage. Then, in less than a minute, one of the most famous machines in the world became a burning frame in front of witnesses. The Hindenburg belonged to the last great age of passenger airships. Its silver body was longer than 3 football fields, with cabins, lounges, dining areas, crew spaces, and massive gas cells hidden inside the structure. To the public, it looked futuristic and almost impossible to destroy. But the grandeur depended on hydrogen, fabric, weather, maintenance, and procedures that had to work together perfectly. A giant airship can look calm while carrying invisible risk.
The final flight began in Germany and crossed the Atlantic under changing weather. Passengers expected a dramatic but routine arrival in America. Lakehurst had seen airship landings before. The field, the mast, the ropes, and the crews were familiar. That familiarity mattered, because disasters often enter through the door of routine. When a dangerous operation has succeeded many times, people may stop feeling how narrow the safety margin really is.
As the Hindenburg maneuvered near the mooring mast, witnesses noticed the airship making turns and adjustments above the field. Rain and electrical conditions became part of later debate. The ship released landing lines, and the ground crew reached to control it. Seconds later, fire appeared near the rear of the airship. What began as a small visible flame expanded with terrifying speed, running across the structure as hydrogen cells failed and the outer skin burned. The newsreel images are famous because they compress catastrophe into a few unforgettable seconds. The rear of the ship drops. Flames climb through the frame. The nose rises. The vast body collapses toward the ground. Crew and passengers jump, run, or fall from windows and openings. The event is so visually clear that it can seem simple, yet the cause remained difficult to prove. The camera recorded the destruction, not every condition that produced ignition. 36 people died, including passengers, crew members, and 1 worker on the ground. Many others survived with burns, injuries, and trauma. Survival often depended on location inside the ship, the moment a person moved, and whether they could escape through windows or openings before the structure collapsed. Some walked away from wreckage that seemed unsurvivable. Others were trapped by seconds. The difference between life and death could be a few steps inside a burning airship. Investigators studied several possible causes. Hydrogen gas was the obvious danger, but hydrogen still needed an ignition source and a path. Theories included static electricity, leaking gas, fabric coating, sharp turns, broken bracing wires, weather, and operational decisions during landing. Sabotage rumors spread quickly because the period was politically tense and the disaster was so public. Yet suspicion was not proof, and no confirmed bomber was ever identified. The static electricity explanation became one of the strongest possibilities. In that view, weather and mooring conditions allowed charge differences to build between parts of the airship and the ground. If hydrogen had leaked into the right area, a spark could have ignited it. But even this explanation leaves questions about where the gas came from, how it accumulated, and why the flame spread in the exact way witnesses described. The disaster remains a puzzle of interacting systems. The Hindenburg's outer covering also became part of public debate. Some later arguments focused on whether the fabric coating contributed to the fire. Specialists have disagreed about how much that mattered compared with hydrogen. The important point is not that one material alone explains everything. It is that a massive vehicle depended on layers of flammable gas, fabric, weather exposure, and operational stress. The margin for error was smaller than the public image suggested.
Photographs from before the disaster show the airship over New York, entering hangars, mooring at Lakehurst, and carrying passengers in comfort. Those images are essential because they show what was lost, not only a machine, but an entire belief in airship travel as a safe luxury future. Interior photographs show lounges and corridors that look civilized and controlled. The wreckage photographs show how quickly that confidence could collapse into twisted metal.
The disaster changed public trust immediately. Airships had already faced economic, political, and technical challenges, but the Hindenburg fire gave the world a single, unforgettable image against them. Passenger Zeppelins never recovered as a mainstream future. Airplanes were becoming faster and more practical, and the burning airship made the alternative feel outdated and dangerous. One disaster did not invent that transition, but it accelerated the public decision.
The crew's actions also deserve attention. Many crew members stayed at posts or helped passengers, even as the ship burned. Ground workers ran toward danger before fully understanding what was happening. Survivors described confusion, heat, falling structure, and sudden openings through which escape became possible. The disaster was not only engineering failure, it was a human emergency where training, instinct, luck, and courage collided inside seconds. Because the Hindenburg burned in front of cameras and microphones, memory of the disaster became inseparable from media. The famous radio description shaped how generations imagined the event. Newsreel footage turned the airship into an icon of failure. That media record is powerful, but it can also make the disaster feel inevitable. It was not inevitable to the people boarding the flight. To them, it was transportation, prestige, and arrival, not a symbol waiting to burn. The Hindenburg also reveals how technology can become trapped between politics and engineering. The airship represented German achievement during a dangerous decade. International restrictions and strategic choices affected what lifting gas could be used. Public image mattered. Reliability mattered. National pride mattered. When technology carries that much symbolism, warning signs can be harder to discuss honestly, because admitting risk may feel like admitting weakness. Modern aviation safety grew through exactly the kind of painful questions the Hindenburg raises. What materials are acceptable? How are leaks detected? How does weather change risk? How do crews respond when a routine arrival becomes unstable? How should investigators separate evidence from rumor? The answers today are stronger because past disasters forced systems to become more transparent, redundant, and skeptical of confidence.
The wreckage at Lakehurst was cleared, but the images remain. A silver airship over Manhattan, a passenger lounge inside a floating machine, a tail section seen from the engine room, then fire, collapse, twisted framework, and survivors running across the field. The sequence matters because it shows the full arc of technological belief: beauty, trust, warning, ignition, and aftermath. That is why the Hindenburg still feels immediate.
The final lesson is not simply that hydrogen is dangerous. It is that spectacular machines can hide ordinary vulnerabilities: weather, maintenance, materials, procedures, pressure, and human assumption. The Hindenburg disaster asks whether people are most at risk when technology looks too impressive to doubt. On that evening in 1937, the future did not vanish because one camera was watching. It vanished because the system behind the image failed.
Nearly a century later, the Hindenburg remains a warning about confidence. The airship was admired, photographed, and trusted before it burned. Its destruction reminds every generation that engineering is not magic, prestige is not protection, and a successful history does not guarantee the next landing. The tragedy at Lakehurst endures because it shows the moment a dream of travel turned into evidence, and evidence turned into memory.